For my second lesson plan, I designed it around conflict resolution and I made it for second graders. I feel that one of the classrooms that I did my observations in the past, it was in a second grade classroom, and like the kids had a huge problem with tattling, and so I feel like learning how to deal with conflict and how to deal with being with these negative emotions, with being angry or disappointed or sad, learning how to deal with them in positive ways opposed to negative ways is really important, especially at this age. So that's kind of how I got the idea for the lesson. And then as far as what I would have them do, I would open it up for my anticipatory set, and we would talk about what is conflict, what is resolution, what I would ask the students as a class. I would ask someone to explain a time that maybe they had a conflict with someone and how did they handle it and what happened. But of course, I would remind them to not use names just in case someone was in the class, because that would be kind of weird. So yeah, and then we could talk about as a class, you should have handled it this way, or why do you think it turned out poorly or nicely? I don't know. And so then eventually for my lesson, I would have us as a class, we would make a list of positive ways to handle conflict. I would probably have a big sheet of paper, and they could come up and write their positive ways, but we would talk about like if someone has an idea for a positive way, they would raise their hand and then I would call on them, then we would talk about it, because to avoid redundancy, I don't want everyone to write the same way, on the our big master class list. So we would have our positive ways to deal with conflict list, and then after creating that, I would probably do a practice scenario, and I would read a scenario to the students, probably one that second graders would typically deal with, so it relates more to them. And then I would ask them how they would handle it, or what positive way that we just came up with, how would you use that in this scenario? And I would have the students desks in groups, so I would want them to talk about this with their groups, and I would walk around the room for a little bit and kind of facilitate their conversations. And then after that, I would do a little skit exercise, a role-playing exercise, and I would hand out little scenario cards to each group, and then character cards to each person at each group, and then the character would obviously correspond to the scenario that they were given. And it'll just be kind of like a typical conflict that second graders would deal with. And then they would have to act it out to the class, and then after each group acts out their skit, I would ask the class, what positive way would you use to handle this? And I could ask the group who is performing their skit to give their opinion also. And then we could talk about, well, how do you think this would work in this situation? Just to kind of get the kids thinking about, different perspectives too. That's why I liked the different, assigning the different character roles. So then after that, for my summative assessment, I would just have them write in their journals about a time that they dealt with conflict personally and what they did to deal with that, and if it worked and if it didn't work, and what they think they could have done better. Yeah.